things happen. I'm Hanisha Lalwani. Welcome to my show. In today's episode, you'll be meeting Rutuja Marfatia. She is a PR and communications expert with over a decade's worth of experience building impactful narratives and shaping brands. Rutuja is the founder of Waffle Communications, a UAE-based agency known for delivering thoughtful, results-driven campaigns. Rutuja is known for her attention to detail and her ability to turn bold, unconventional ideas into meaningful impact. Her work focuses on crafting compelling brand stories, building strong media and influencer relationships, and creating nuanced strategies that help brands stand out and grow with purpose. Let's get to know Rutuja and how she makes things happen. Hi Rutuja, welcome to my podcast. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thanks for inviting me, Hanisha. I'm excited to get started.
I remember when we first met, I think it was just last year. I really loved your no bullshit attitude, especially when it came to your work ethic. You tend to say things like it is. You read between the lines. I think these are things that really appeal to me when I met you professionally last year. And we don't meet people that we consider like us ever so often. So I had this affinity towards you, and I've enjoyed partnering with you through work. And I thought you would be a great next guest on my podcast. So thank you again for joining me. I wanted to start this conversation, Rutuja, by asking you how or why you chose to shape your career in public relations. I myself started my career in PR, and I remember being fascinated by the subject when it was part of my master's degree. It was a module that I studied. So I think it fascinated me, and that got me off to starting my career in PR. But I'm always fascinated to learn why other people choose to begin their careers in PR.
Firstly, thanks, Hanisha. I think we have very many similar qualities when it comes to, just like no filters when it comes to like when we believe in something. So it was we instantly connected, and I love our conversations whenever we have them for work or otherwise.
Yeah.
Answering about PR. So I think PR chose me because it's funny. When I finished my graduation, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And a friend had told me, I always interned. I interned through each semester, but I was focused on advertising. So I tried different advertising agencies, but I'd never thought about PR. I didn't even know much about it. And a friend of mine did a PR internship, and she said, you'd love it. And it was something that I was thinking about researching. And I was in Bombay doing my graduation, and I was leaving. It was one of my last few days because I hadn't decided what I wanted to do. So I was going to go back home, be with my parents, and figure it out. I actually wanted to do my master's in political science. So that's what I was considering.
That's another thing you and me have in common.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I love political science.
Yeah, me too. It was one of those things that I finally enjoyed studying in school, after I took humanities and when I was doing my 11th, 12th. And before that, that was something I was considering for master's, but then I chose mass comm just to keep my options wider. And I was going to leave Bombay soon because I didn't have a plan, and I had gone out with my uncle and aunt, and I happened to see an agency founder at the party, and I really didn't want to leave Bombay. So I just walked up to him and I said, I read about you in Bombay Times today morning, and I'm really looking for a job so I don't have to go back. And he just looked at me and he's like, who are you? And I was like, oh, I'm here, and my parents are calling me back. And he just like was babbled, but he gave me a number. And he said, call on it. And I said, what should I say? He said, when you call, they'll know what to do. And 2 days later, I had a job in PR. So he picked it for me. And, when I went to the office, I had nothing. I didn't even have an official interview. I was just hired. I just kind of went, and that's what I learned. I learned about PR on the job. I had studied it, in a semester, but I think studying PR versus practicing are like totally, completely like different experiences. And that's why I started PR. And after that, that's all I've done. Like, I loved it. I fell in love with it within the first month. And it was everything I was looking for. And that's it. No looking back.
Amazing. I like that PR chose you.
Yeah, yeah, it literally did.
I too had my first stint with PR, of course, studying it as part of my master's in marketing degree. But also, the first sort of experience I had of the PR world was through an internship in Bombay as well. And it was fascinating. I always wanted to be a journalist, but did not think I had the courage to pursue it. So, PR was, I
Same.
think, you see, you see, so PR was the next best thing because it had connections to working with the media. So I'm glad that we have so much in common, and
Yeah.
that PR shows you because you do such a great job of it. 10 years
Thank
down
you.
the line. Rutuja, for those of us who live and work in the Middle East, these are some really, really challenging times, unprecedented times. I wanted to ask, how are you doing, and what are you advising your clients at this time?
So Hanisha, this is, I mean, you always read about these things and you never think they're going to happen to you.
Yeah.
Especially the kind of, when you live in Dubai, it's so safe. It's a different world altogether, and you're just living in like a very safe environment, and something like a war situation doesn't cross your mind. So yes, it was quite challenging at the start. Firstly, to accept myself what's happening, and then to be able to quickly advise my clients. The advice has been changing day by day. So I'll tell you, when we just heard about it, it was on a weekend. So I asked my
Yeah.
clients who didn't have anything valuable to add to hold on, to actually see what the situation demands, because I truly believe that if you don't have anything valuable to say, you better not add to the noise. You need to check, you need to decide what works for each brand. So when things started moving into week one, I advise them to do internal communications, write to their teams of how they're handling it, write to their stakeholders, and then kind of make statements according to each industry. However, now we're almost 1 month in, and now we do have a target audience, the people who have decided to stay back, families who are here. So we know who we are speaking with, and now our communication has changed because businesses need to survive. So they need to reach out. A lot of clients do hold on to services like marketing, social media, and PR when things like this happen because of cash flow issues. But I think it's a really good time to connect with your audience by proving what you can do for the community. It's not a sales driven exercise now, but it's about what and how you're helping the community around you. So, yes, we've been advising and things have been changing every day, literally.
Yeah, it's an ever evolving situation, and I like what you said, that your audience is not just external but also internal. Your own employees, how you're speaking to them at this point of time, and agreed. If you don't have anything valuable, don't add to the noise.
Yeah.
But this makes me curious about, you're working independently, you run your own agency. Clients are looking at you for all of the answers. Your team is looking at you for all of the answers. How do you wade through unknown territory when you don't have answers? Let's agree, we don't always know all things at all times. How do you give solutions when you yourself may not have all the answers?
So this happens all the time, and especially now because there are very different waters to navigate. So what I love about Dubai, after since I've moved here, is that there's a very strong sense of community. So I was able to find a couple of other PR professionals who are always ready to help and chat. So I've created an ecosystem for myself, and not only now, anytime like I have problems sometimes with a client of how I should deal, how I should move forward, sometimes help with media. I've actually have two really good other PR professionals who also run PR agencies who I bounce off ideas with. In fact, when this happened, it was so interesting because one of them is born and brought up here and is raising her children here, and she had such a different perspective to share with me. And the other one is a new mom, and her baby's tiny, and her perspective was so different because now all of a sudden she's thinking for another human being as well. So it was quite interesting. I did chat with them, and I'm part of a lot of media community groups as well, where other PR professionals were sharing what they're going through, how they are handling the situation. So it was great to kind of just learn from the community and ask them questions, and people were very eager to help and answer them.
I think I can attest to that. I used to live in Dubai for 6 years and then moved to London for 2 years. And I really miss that sense of community in Dubai. I think it's what brought me back to Dubai.
Yeah.
And I think even our friendship is an example of that. We were introduced professionally,
Nice.
but then I bounce off ideas off of you, and you're so generous with your information, your ideas, and I think this is what I love about that city, and it's that sense of community that is really flourishing in these crazy times. So it's good to hear that you're honest about not knowing everything, and leaning on your friends, on people in the industry who are so generous with their time for this knowledge sharing. I think that's what makes us better professionals.
Absolutely, it really is. I think there's enough space for everybody, and you can help and then you can grow. It's not either or.
Yeah, we don't have to feel alone in
Yeah,
what we're doing.
absolutely. Yeah.
Um, Rutuja, like part of public relations is crisis communications. I think it is the most understated subspecialty of this profession, and the importance of emotional intelligence as a PR person cannot be emphasized more. Um, Talk to me about the confidence it takes in advising clients when it comes to times of crisis.
Okay, so crisis communications is very different in theory and practice, right? Because there are no two crises are same, especially like no two industries are same, no two crises are same. I actually did my
Yeah.
master's in PR, and we did have a segment on crisis communication. And I've never been able to practice it in real life, because real life, it is so much more complex. So when we start off with our contracts, crisis communication is something I always include. And Hanisha, you'd be surprised how many times clients come back to me and say that, can we remove that and go back on the pricing? Like, can we change that? And for me, I always advise that you should be practiced. So, for example, if we're working with a large scale event, then we actually put a crisis communication plan right at the start. So, what if it rains? It's an outdoor event. What if something happens to somebody while at the event? How are you going to respond? Because we would have
I
invited
see.
journalists. What if, so we put in a plan. But something like what we're going through at the moment, there is no plan. And like you said, like, I'm not going to tell my client it's not in the contract, so I'm not going to help you with the crisis. And crisis can look different for different people. If you're a restaurant and an influencer has gone to the restaurant and there has been some miscommunication, she's not had a good experience, how we're going to handle that. That's something we can talk about, but how the person reacts is completely different. So we have to pivot and we have to, decide on the spot how we're going to handle it. So I think it's a learning curve for everybody involved, because we are never going to have the same crisis twice. So yes, I think top skill here, like you said, apart from emotional intelligence, is listening, because a lot of times what happens is we're in a hurry to fix it and we're not listening to what is actually happening. So I always advise my clients that we need to listen, take a step back, and even if we're like, say there's a delay of 5 minutes, is fine over saying something you can't take back. So I think it's a learning curve. We're learning. I'm learning every day, on the job, and the clients are learning. And there is a lot of things, a lot of theories or comparisons that have been put, or a lot of practices that get put in by past experiences. So, for example, like I'll continue with the restaurant example, right? After you have one bad experience, you put that down into your things, up into your practices, and you inform the team, okay, we're not going to do this moving forward, we will try. So we try to avoid the previous mistakes, but when something new comes in, it's again starting from scratch.
I
So I'd
like
say
that.
that you can be as prepared, but it's very dynamic.
And you've touched upon such a critical skill of being patient, listening, and not reacting with that speed when it's not called for. It depends, of course, circumstance to circumstance. But I think you
Yeah.
mentioned taking a step back. That is really, really important, and thinking with a cool and calm head. Kudos to you for doing that and doing that well. I think crisis communications is such a challenging task. But I also know that you are a PR professional that does not say yes to everything your client asks for just because they want it or they think that's what you need to deliver. You're not a yes person, Rutuja. And I think this is one of the biggest reasons you are here on my podcast today. How do you manage difficult conversations with clients? How do you say no? How do you exercise that muscle of having difficult and challenging conversations with your clients when they're not in agreement with you?
So Harisha, thank you. While a lot of people appreciate this quality, I think it's quite a challenging space to be in for me and my clients. I think they've hired me for my professional expertise, and if I keep saying yes to everything they ask me to, I'm doing a disservice, and I am not doing my job well. What happens, especially when you're a CEO or a founder who is directly speaking to the PR agency, that you're very, very like the product or the service is so close to your heart that you cannot see sometimes.
Yeah,
You're so
yeah.
hell bent on doing what you think is right that you're not ready to listen to somebody from the outside. But you've hired me so that I can help you move past that, right? If you could do that, if you could do PR and if you could do all the communications yourself, you wouldn't need me. So I think but it's not been easy always. I think I also have had, I won't say that I never like cave or I don't, pivot myself, but it's been a learning curve. We try to find a middle ground more so that we both are comfortable, the client is comfortable, and I'm comfortable, and we can come to common grounds how it would benefit them. I'll give you one example, okay? But I think this one it was not my best move professionally. However, it did teach me a thing or two. So a client wanted to do a promotion, 50% off for Women's Day. And, we had a 2 hour long discussion on this where I said, I'm absolutely not comfortable with this. And I won't say that I promote, I'm happy to send out a release on Burger Day and Waffles Day and, any day you want me to, any Hallmark holiday, I am happy to send out a press release. I'm not above it. Listings work and they're there for a reason and I'll do it. But I don't think Women's Day is a Hallmark holiday. It's something I truly believe in. And I had a 2 hour long discussion with him and he then came to me and he was like, no, I want to do this. So I said, and should not have in retrospect. But I said, fine, then you can reach out to another agency because I won't sell it out. And
Wow.
that's something that's when he decided to listen to me because he realized how much it meant to me. Before that, we were, just going back and forth, back and forth, back
Yeah.
and forth. And then he told me that what should I do instead? And I said, why don't you put in some policies to help women employees this year? And let's see what we do next year with that.
Right. Okay. I love that.
Let's
Okay.
think, yeah, because it's not something that needs to be talked about if you're not doing anything
Yes.
about
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
free cookie and the free cupcake does not matter. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't add any value. And women have been working on this for years, and we're just going to be like, what? Come take a free cupcake. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think it justifies the
Yeah. It
thing.
absolutely diminishes the value of that day. Yeah.
So that's when I've done, but over the years I have taken my own advice and I take a step back instead of reacting. I'm a very reactive person. I was a reactive person in my personal life, but when it comes to work, I'm a completely different person, and I was able to practice this. Now I try and find and come 50%, 50%. I hope that I can pull them 80% to my side. But, sometimes you do something that the client really wants to do as well. But I do have certain beliefs and certain systems which I will
Yeah.
absolutely not cross. And I pride myself in it. And I try to make these boundaries pretty clear at the start when I meet a client. However, what happens is that if there are marketing teams and the marketing managers keep changing, right? So if you're working with a client long term, you may have communicated to one manager, but then a new manager will come in with different ideas and different ideologies. So this is a constant communication
Right.
that goes on with clients.
You clearly are not afraid of taking those risks in conversations, and you've said you set boundaries for yourself, and this affinity to define guardrails in your professional environment. Is this where your desire to do your own freelance work, to start your own agency, came from? Where you have the ability to choose the clients you work with, to decide, based on your ethics and integrity, what you say yes and what you say no to.
So, Harisha, I just, in all honesty, I started freelancing in Bombay because wanted to make more money. I had this thing where I wanted to live on my own and make a life of my own. And you've lived in Bombay, and you know the rents are
Oh yes. Oh yes.
unimaginable. And I really wanted to, make it happen for myself.
Mm.
So I started freelancing. I was working in a PR agency, and then you cannot take another PR client when you're working in the agency, right? Because you're using their resources. So I started freelancing and doing event work and, helping clients in different industries, which were close enough, but not overstepping my current PR role. And then when I started getting more leads over there, I was like, you know what, maybe I can do it on my own. And then I kind of decided to quit, and I started working on my own. That's when I started taking on PR clients and growing. And then I started working with a friend, and we quickly partnered together, and we were growing and we were taking on new clients. And the idea at that time was that we'd work with startups, because startups need that push, and agencies in India were very expensive. They were catering to the bigger companies. So we were trying to create that space for ourselves. And while I was doing that, because I was also only 25, so I made a lot of mistakes, because of just all the way I was handling my finances, everything that I was doing. uh, when I moved to Dubai in 2018, that's when I realized how I could change everything that I did wrong when I moved here. So when I moved here, I started working with an agency, and I thought it was important to kind of understand the lay of the land, all of that. So when I was doing that, and then when I started freelancing on my own over here, I tried not to make those mistakes, because one of the key things I learned was that I want to work with brands that I can actually vouch for, and I would buy from, I would support, and they would be like, I would be the customer for them. Not, I mean, if I'm doing a real estate client, doesn't mean I'm going to buy, the apartment. I don't mean it like that, but the values should match. And that's something I wanted to ensure that I was able to do. And one of the ways to do that was to stay nimble and, stay agile as a company and figure that out. So I have worked very hard, and I try to keep everything that I want to do within that. So I am trying to design my own, my own working environment, because you spend so many hours working,
Yeah. Yeah.
and if you're just going to take on work that you don't believe in, I think you're going to stop enjoying what you do. And I actually love PR, so I really want to continue enjoying what I'm doing. And I'll say I'm able to do this. This also comes from a place of privilege where I'm able to decide. I'm not. That I don't have to make that much, and I'm not running a house. Nobody's dependent on me. It is come from a place of privilege, but I try to make the most of it, because if you've got something, then I think you should be able to design it and create a life that works for you. And that's what I'm doing with it. And I think the boldness to work on my own just came from the desire to create a life that I want to live, and the way I want to, work. Because I actually truly love working. I think it was one of those things, kids, when you're growing up. I actually grew up in a boarding school, and you find things. Somebody's created art, and somebody is like great at sports, and you have that thing. And I was never able to like find that thing that where I was amazing at something and I loved it myself. So I was never able to find that sweet spot till I
Right.
actually started working.
That is so interesting. And
Yeah, so I could protect
it's so
it.
commendable that you've eventually found your calling in life, and you're doing so successfully, working for yourself, and acknowledging the privilege that you have. That's amazing. And My curious brain now wants me to ask you, when you started your own agency, Waffle Communications, post the pandemic,
Yeah.
how did you go about with your business development? How did you go about reaching clients? Um, did you have quite a bit of network in the industry by then? Because you moved from Bombay to Dubai in 2018, and then just about 2 or 3 years later, you started your own agency. So, how did you go about pitching for new work?
So it's very interesting because I simply reached out to people on Instagram. Like it was
Wait,
not
not
something I
not
planned.
LinkedIn, but Instagram?
Instagram, yeah.
Huh.
So what happened, during COVID was that a lot of people, I think, post COVID, moved to Dubai to do jobs, right? Because
Hmm.
you could save up, you could get really good jobs, and people were moving back to their countries after, since our visas depended on our jobs over here. So it was that was just how the city was functioning, and I during COVID realized that a lot of people lost their jobs and a lot of homegrown brands started popping up because a lot of licenses, Dubai as a city started doing all these entrepreneur licenses, individual founder licenses, and a lot of people, lots of Instagram pages were popping up. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to write to them. So I would go to their inbox and I'd be like, hey, we're working from home. Online is the storefront at the moment. Everybody's online shopping, everybody's online consuming. Should be, I saw your page and I love your product, but if you try this, you'd see a better response. And if it works for you, let me know and I'd love to chat. And that's it. They would try it if they wanted to, they'd get curious. Between 2020 and 2021, I spoke to over 25 homegrown brands. So
Wow.
it was just about like reaching out. And that time also Dubai was promoting Dubai Expo. So the sentiments were really there and the city was coming up. And by reaching out to these smaller brands, what happened is that I started working with a lot of mommy and me brands. So a lot of those brands or mothers had created products for kids. So they had a very strong community and they kept recommending me to each other. And, I kind of created that. And through my previous jobs, I had created a network of like marketing professionals. So by the time I decided to start my own company, I had created networks of my own in two different, so smaller businesses and larger businesses. And so when I, set up my operations, I just simply reached out, and one thing led to the other. And it was till 2024. I didn't have my own Instagram page. I didn't even have my own LinkedIn page. I didn't have my website. Everything was word of mouth. People recommended, and we slowly built because I'm of believe that like PR is a behind the scenes job. Your
Yes.
client needs to shine, and you're like working behind. But things have changed, and now you need to kind of be out there and speak. And I was a bit late there. I will accept, but 2024, I decided that okay, it's enough. Like let's do it, and then I started all my platforms. Last year, I got my first client through LinkedIn. I didn't think it was possible, and they just reached out to me, and that made me more confident about like social outreach and platforms. Instagram, on the other hand, is more to stay in touch with influencers and media, kind of see what they're doing. So different platforms, different roles, but it's been word of mouth till 2024. And then I joined a networking group called BNI. And when I joined that helped me diversify my portfolio because first I was working with children's focused brands and hospitality clients. But once I joined, I was able to get into real estate, tech, things that I would not have, moved on my own. So yeah, it's been a journey, but like we also said, Dubai is a community focused city, so it's been okay.
A remarkable journey, and I think you had mentioned this number when we were chatting earlier about. I think around 70% of your business comes through word of mouth. This is
Yes.
amazing. And
Yeah.
and the fact that you only started promoting yourself and your business on LinkedIn and Instagram in 2024, like almost 4 years after you started your own agency. So remarkable stuff. Uh, how have you been able to join the dots for your clients between your work in PR and commercial impact?
Okay, so this is a highly debatable question, like you know, and I think I wouldn't say that there's a linear line to join these dots, but I will say one thing that PR has been around for years. So
Hmm.
if didn't work, it wouldn't be here as an industry that's thriving, booming, and growing. And I try to explain this to my clients also every time they ask me this question when I go, for a business page or when we are finalizing, saying that how will we see the sales? PR is a trust building exercise, right? And everybody knows it takes a long time to build trust, but once you build it, then the possibilities are endless. So for advertising, it's pretty straightforward, right? Even in olden days and even now, you see an ad in the newspaper, you put in an offer, the amount of people who call or go to the outlet, you can track it, you know what's happened. But with PR, what happens is I'll see something, I may not need it then, but I will screenshot it. I'll send it to a friend. Olden days, I would make a note of it and be like, okay, whenever I'm crossing that area, I'm going to drop by here. So it's linked to human behavior. And
Hmm. Hmm.
because of that, it has long term gains. And, like why you pick a brand of morning coffee over the other. Simple things like that is because of things you read and absorb, the things you
Yes.
hear from other people. It's not just an ad is not going to change that, but many factors. Even just now, because I worked with so many smaller brands, they were like, oh, why do I need PR? I will put my budgets towards social media ad. I said, okay,
Hmm.
that's fair point. But when somebody goes and Googles you, will they believe you who they've never heard about or a trusted publication when they write about you?
Hmm.
So while the ad has brought them to your page, how are you convincing them? How are you building that
Right.
trust? A legacy brand who's written about you will instantly help them think that your product is legit.
Hmm.
So there are, so I think while there is not direct implication, there is no denying that, PR helps businesses grow. It helps founder profiling. Everybody believes people over businesses. When founders go and speak on radio, television, or even a print interview, they're able to tell their story. While also adding in the journalist perspective, so it's so much more interesting to read. It kind of it's coming together of minds, and then a person perceiving it their way. So I love the human angles that go into what PR can do. And it definitely is not a direct sales strategy, but it is a long-term sales strategy.
You have articulated this so well.
Thank you.
Because it's so hard to create that evidence and join the dots, and this topic of measuring impact is ever, it's always being discussed in this industry. I remember my MD once came to me and said they won new business because a client had read an article of our brand in the newspaper, and that's when they picked up the phone, reached out, and our company was hired, our services were used by that company. So if he had not shared with me this example, I would have never known the
Yeah, and
impact.
how exciting was it for you to like receive that information? I tell you, till today, like I've been doing PR since 2011, and till today, every morning I sit and I scan through newspapers, and when I see my clients' coverage pop in, I have the same excitement that I had when I saw the first clip that I ever worked on come in,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's just so exciting. I just love it.
And only you know how much effort you've put behind the
Yeah,
scenes to you know that result in this story.
yeah,
It feels so
yeah.
great.
It feels
And you
amazing. Like
spoke, you
I
spoke about the human touch that goes into creating a story. So
yeah.
there's what you do as a PR professional, and then there's what the journalist adds to it, infers from it, and then publishes as a story. But you and me know that PR is so misunderstood. It often gets such a bad rep. And this was tough for me to deal with when I was working in PR in the first 2 years of my career. There's so much PR bashing from journalists who battle flooded inboxes to senior management who expects their faces on magazine covers. The PR industry is always being bashed. How do you manage this perception issue that's so intertwined with your industry, with your job?
Okay, so I'll start off. This is factual. If you go on LinkedIn and just put PR as a hashtag, it'll be journalists just simply sharing the wildest stories. But I'll tell you this. Okay, so we're middlemen, right? Like that's the job, and it takes a certain kind of person to do this job. So Hanisha, over the years, I've worked in several agencies, and I can tell you, you become really close with your colleagues, right? It's spend so many hours, and few of my closest friends I met through work, and none of them do PR anymore because for them
Wow.
it was just so
Yeah.
hard to separate themselves from the job. So
Correct.
I
Yeah.
don't think they're bashing you; they're bashing the job. Coming to journalists, I think what has happened is just the sheer volume of PR professionals now is so high, and it's so easy to reach out to them. Okay, so when I remember when I started doing PR first, we would after an event, I would sit with the photographer, we'd select all the photos, then we'd go there and then we'd print them, then we'd handwrite and label it behind. Then it would be sent to the office of the journalist and then it would be printed. Like the process was extremely long, right? So
Yeah.
it required a person who knew what to do, when to do, how to do. Now it's so quick. You go on ChatGPT, you type out a pitch, you get an email online, everything, all the information's online, and you just send. So I sympathize with them because there are a lot of people who don't know what they're doing. So their inboxes must be going crazy. Sometimes I send like 5 emails to the same journalist in a day. In my head, I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like I feel bad for them, but I have to service every client, and it just happens to be the field. So I think that's where this comes from. But I also feel like they need us as much as we need them. Uh, there has been a misunderstanding about like of how I don't know how to say this. It's just there's a misunderstanding of how that we make more money than them. Like that, it's that perception has somehow come in that agencies charge a huge amount to their clients, and they're expecting everything free from the journalists. But I think it's not true. The expenses when you're running an agency, we also have a ton of other expenses that we're taking care of, and uh, it is hard to get clients as well. We are pitching them, we're convincing them to put in that kind. So we bring different skill sets. So our job is not only media relations. We do a lot of other things for our clients. However, I think a lot of that frustration comes from the sheer volume because PR people, I read these posts, keep calling them, keep WhatsApping them. I get annoyed if somebody keeps WhatsApping me. So I think it comes from that place, and they don't really mean to like bash us all. And when it comes to clients being on the cover of magazines, it's once again they have not understood the subject, right? PR many times is misunderstood as coverage, just appearing in publications. But it's what you do with that coverage also. Actually, I learned this 2 years ago. And now when I send my client report, on the last page, add of what they should do with the coverage. So,
Amazing.
for example, there's no point if you've come in today morning's Khalij Times and you've not done anything with it. Has the
Correct.
founder shared it on their LinkedIn? Have you shared it internally for team boosting? Has your
Yeah.
HR added it to get the right kind of talent? Is it part of your decks for pitching in new clients? What have you done with the coverage? It's so important now because now people are consuming information from several touch points. So if you're not reaching all of that, you're going to say PR is not effective. uh, Even to be like for founders, I think it's very when I get my clients on board, I'm very, very transparent, and we speak about expectations right at the start. Because to reach a cover story, you have to do PR for years. Unless like you have come up with a breakthrough product, it's not going to happen. And every time you give me an example of a successful person on the cover, it's because they worked for that many years and they had a PR agency for half of it. The journalist putting on the cover needs to understand that when a reader picks that magazine up, they get that value. So I always
Yes.
ask the founder or the client saying that, would you want to wake up on a Sunday morning, open the newspaper, have your coffee in hand, and read about your story? Would that add some value? would the reader get goosebumps? Would the reader get motivated? Would the reader feel that, wow, inspired? And if you don't think, then we've not reached that stage. So we should work together to reach there. So I think
So
it's like setting
a lot of
expectations.
yeah, a lot of education, a lot of work, done with patience over time. Uh, that helps you create
Yeah.
your credibility with clients. So this is hard work, and I feel that that hard work behind the scenes that PR professionals are doing should be acknowledged more. So that's why I'm glad that you're here talking about the PR profession. I know when I was working, in my first 2 years of my career as a PR professional, I really took it personally. Clients, picking up the phone and shouting at me, or journalists, taking out their frustration on me. It's hard not to take these things personally. And so for me, it was like, wait, I studied marketing. I'm interested in marketing, and
Yeah.
PR is one pillar of marketing. So I want to be a generalist and not a specialist. So I advanced my career in marketing. And I have to say, Rutuja, the learnings that I had from working in a PR agency for the first 2 years of my career are, you cannot measure that. It taught
Yeah.
me so much, and there can be no more humbling a job than that. So
Absolutely.
I really understand agency culture. I understand, what it takes for a PR agency to do what they do. So I wish that you continue to shine and continue to deliver value of what this function is there to do. Um, Rutuja, you spoke earlier about taking a step back, the importance of taking a step back to reflect, to think about what response should be like. But let's be honest, you and me work in an environment where there's a sense of urgency. So many times it's a falsely created sense of urgency. And especially in the Middle East, things move so quickly. There is such ambition, such drive, which I love. I love that energy. It's what I moved back from London to Dubai for, that energy, that ambition. But oftentimes, this urgency culture does disservice to you and me. The constantly being always on, always available. It does not have positive impacts on our mind and body at all times. Given you are on the agency side, you exist to service your clients. How do you deal with urgency culture?
Okay, so I won't even call myself a victim. I'm the problem of urgency culture. I will quickly reply to everything. I need to respond ASAP.
Yeah.
I'll apologize if I'm replying after 1 hour, and which is
Oh my
crazy,
God.
because it should be like, but I think it came in from when we started working, just that was just how the working environment was. And
Yes.
in the last 1 year, I'm trying to change this about myself, and I'm working actively towards it. And I say this to myself, that I'm not a surgeon and nobody will die. I remind myself that I'm not a surgeon, and I'm not like over there. Nothing will change in 1 hour. So I think just now I'm working on it myself. Everything now over here is like on WhatsApp, right? Like they've made
Yes.
every client has a WhatsApp group. Everything is like, so it's so quick. But when I'm hiring people who are not part of this problem already, I'm learning so much from them. Hanisha, it's crazy. When I interviewed one of my employees, I asked her, where does she get her source of information from? And she said TikTok. So I said, no, I mean news, like, what's happening in the world. She said TikTok. So I said, okay, I'm like not even on. I felt ancient. Then I'm working, another colleague of mine, she puts off her phone on the weekend. She signs off Instagram, she puts her emails off, she puts her phone off. It's not ideal for a PR candidate, so I did have to have a chat for her because of the nature of the job. But I did, it helped me think from like a different perspective. that nothing is truly that urgent. And, if we communicate, if we just speak with our clients, and a lot of the time people just don't have the time, especially when you work with smaller founder-led companies, right? It's the founder has time on the weekend, and that's why they are
Right.
responding to you or messaging to you or saying. So, what we've done in the last 1 year is that I have requested them to email me instead of WhatsApp me. So, if you're going to use the weekend window to work, because yes, you're busy with other things through the week and you're going to do
Yeah.
that, then like just email us instead of WhatsApping us.
It's a fair ask.
But yeah, but it's a learning curve, and I think I don't think we are completely wrong when it comes to just being prompt, because I think there's beauty in promptness, that it shows that you respect and love what you do so much that you really want to service your clients as soon as possible and come up with a solution fast. But I also think that we need to learn from people who are getting in. So I think we need to find a middle ground. They don't need to go through the same things we went through. We should be able to kind of stop the toxic cycle of urgency. However, we should pass on the good values of, like, there's nothing. I think I read this somewhere where they said that some people perceive that, oh, if you reply quickly to a message, it's because you're free, you're always free, or you're always, oh, she's always available. But it's actually the highest level of respect, because you respect them enough to respond as soon as possible so that you're taking the conversation forward. So there are two sides to this, and there are very many interesting perspectives on this online, and I am always reading and trying to figure out and learn more of how it can be handled. But I would say that we need to kind of find a solution for our own mental peace. And the older you get, the more longing for peace, which I never understood when people told me. But I think now I'm mentally and physically more tired. So I really need to kind of set those boundaries for myself to be able to enjoy other things in life as well over the weekend.
And I think you and me are on that path. We discussed this earlier this year
Yeah,
when we met, that we have to break our own habits about
yeah,
always being available, responding immediately. And I think what I've learned since trying to not be victim to this urgent culture is that my responses are often more measured, more thought through, and ultimately more valuable. So I
yeah.
love that you're learning from younger colleagues and changing your way of response. I think that's something we all need to do. Talking about learning, how do you stay updated with news, with trends? Is it now TikTok? Have you signed up to TikTok now, like your younger colleague
No,
recommended?
I mean, I don't think I can add one more platform as dynamic as TikTok to my list. I simply don't have the courage to do it. But I love long form, reading, writing. So I read a lot of like online articles. I do courses here and there. If I find something interesting online, I'll join a webinar, I'll join a seminar. I follow a lot of PR professionals around the world whose stories I find inspiring on LinkedIn, and then I read their posts and I read their learnings. I also just randomly read a lot. So I think just not about like PR and industry, but in general about what's going on. I think one of like top skill set as a PR professional is reading what's going on, because you can never craft a pitch or you can never know what to say, when to say, if you're not reading, if you don't know what people are writing and talking about. So I'm constantly reading, I'm constantly trying. I follow a lot of journalists as well. So, when they share the work they're doing, then I'll pick on, then I'm just constantly doing all of that. I've also started focusing on personal skills. When you go and start working, like last year, I think I mentioned to you, I was doing public speaking classes. And when you go
Oh,
there and you
nice.
meet people, yeah, you learn a lot of other skills that come with it when they tell you. So I think it's just a little bit of this and that. There is no like serious plan over there, but however, you learn a lot on the job as well. And every time you meet a new person or there's a new marketing manager you're communicating with, there's just a ton of learning that comes with it.
That's so nice. And I know the energy it takes, the passion it takes to, stay on that learning journey, the open-mindedness it takes to always absorb what's happening around you. I think it's so important for us, not only as professionals, but as human beings, to keep on that learning journey. And
Yeah.
for me personally, this podcast is one way that I continue that learning journey for myself. But my last question is always, about how do you make things happen. You make so many amazing things happen for yourself, for your clients. How do you do that? What is the secret sauce? You've gone after and shaped the career that is as per your aspirations, your ethics. How do you make things happen?
I don't take no for an answer. I just
Mm.
have not. I have simply not done this
Oh,
since I
wow.
was a kid. People called me stubborn, and you know, uh, they would say like she's spoiled and she's stubborn. But there's always a solution. No is not a hard stop for me ever. And this, it comes with a little bit of delusion that anything is possible. It also comes from like the confidence that my father, when I was a kid, if I would say at night in the middle of the night that it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon, he'd be like, it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon, because then my mother would just look at him and he'd be like, it's 12 o'clock somewhere in the afternoon, right? So
Oh
she's not
my god.
completely wrong, right? Like, if you decide that you're going to like make it happen, it's possible. Like, you just need to know that you are capable of making it happen. And I think I've always been that. So since I was a kid, I have had that confidence. When I was under 10, my friends and I started a summer library in a parking garage. I've always been that kind of person who wants to do things, and that's when the first time, I took on the job of promoting the library. All of us
Right.
took different roles, and mine was to kind of think. And that time, printers had just come to India, and they'd print one word, and then I had sat all night and lots of pamphlets printing. And there's this really funny photo of me from back in the day where I'm sleeping, and then there's just pamphlets of those printers my mother had taken, because I was so determined to go and give each pamphlet in every house. So I've always been that person. For me, no is never the final answer. As I grew up, I realized that everything doesn't work in your favor all the time. When I was a kid, it was much easier. But I even when a client comes to me and comes with a problem, my answer will never be like it's not possible. It'll
Hmm.
always be like, okay, let's see how we can make it possible. If it's not, I always have plan A, B, C, D. I think this situation that we are in Dubai is the first time my brain had not gone to that,
Yeah.
that level of planning. But I think everything is possible if you put your mind to it. And sometimes when things look like they're not happening, it's happening for a reason, so that you can come up with an even greater plan, like even a greater idea. So I think it's just, yeah, I think it comes from like just believing in yourself that you can make it happen. And there are just always ways. You'll have to pivot and you'll have to try something different. But there are always two options in life. You can sit and cry about it, cry, complain, or you can go out and find a way to fix it. And I am the other person. But I do complain a lot also. I just, because if anyway, but it's to get it out of my system. I just complain. Also because I'm a Virgo and I'm a critique. So I just like,
Yeah,
complain. But
perfectionist.
after that,
Virgos are perfectionists.
yeah, but after that, I will, sit back on the drawing board and just be like, okay, I can do this instead. And I think that's what's helped me.
So dogged determination, just the sheer
Yeah.
resilience of wanting to make things happen. Rutuja, I end this conversation feeling so energized by talking to you,
Oh, I'm
and
glad.
I can't thank you enough. I hope you continue to prosper and inspire people around you, people you work with. And thank you so much for being here. I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Anisha. I'm so glad you invited me, and I've really enjoyed talking to you like I always do.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's today's show. If you like this conversation, please give me a 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you're listening to your podcast.